Hey, what's going on, everybody? Justin down in the electronics workshop. We're working on the Collins. Made some pretty good progress on it. It's been a bit of a thing. There's a lot of tightly packed components on that point-to-point circuitry, and that adds a bit of a curveball that you kind of have to work through. It's actually not too bad, but you do definitely have to take your time. So, anyway, I just kind of want to give an update and show you where I'm currently at on that. I did do a few things. So capacitor kit came in for this unit. This kit was ordered from, excuse me. This kit was ordered from Nationwide Radio and Equipment Sales, which is out of Semco, Wisconsin. So right in my backyard, pretty much. So I'm over near the Wausau area, and Semco is just kind of over there, not too far away, actually. Maybe about a hour to maybe close to 2 hour drive-ish. So nice to work with a local company. Of course, I purchased this. This is a customer repair. One thing that I always do when I'm working on radio equipment that uses these types of capacitors, they don't actually put a band letting you know where the foil side of these are. And there is a right and a wrong way to install these. You can run into issues where you'll have humming or noise coming through, especially on audio and other sensitive electronics. So one thing that I do, I use my oscilloscope that's behind me. I put it on a very sensitive setting, like 2 millivolts per division, and then I use the probes and I connect them up, and I use the outer body and my finger to introduce noise. And then what I'll do is then I'll flip the probes around or flip the capacitor around and connect it up. And what I'm looking for is the lowest noise potential while I'm holding the outer body of the capacitor, where the lowest noise side is. And then you have to take note of where the ground lead sits on the using the oscilloscope. Then you can mark that grounded lead side as the foil side of the capacitor. This is something that I've learned through Mr. Carlson's lab. He's a great source of information, very, very intelligent person, and very, very detail oriented. So I have done that by marking it with a black dot, just a felt tip magic marker, to mark that on all of the little capacitors that are going into here, because I want to put this together in such a way where it is better than, if not just kind of holding to the same standard as it was assembled originally. So Collins equipment is some awesome top of the line old school transmitting and receiving equipment. So anyway, let's flip the camera around and I'll show you where I'm at. I did install a new electrolytic can as well from Hayseed Hamfest. They make some nice replacement can style capacitors. I think they put a modern capacitor inside of a can to keep the look. And I'll probably turn the unit around so you can kind of get a good look and see what that looks like. It does look quite nice. And to be honest with you, if I see that in a piece of equipment, I'll know somebody has actually put some time into getting it done right. It's just a nice touch. And it's not, it's not the cheapest way of doing it, but it's also the nicest way, in my strong opinion. So let's take a look at this. We'll flip the camera around and I'll let you see what I got going on. 24 millimeter. Let's go 13. There we go. So here we go. This is all of the components that I have currently removed from it. So there's a nice large pile of bumblebee type ones here. The blue and the green capacitor, as well as these paper type electrolytics. I was pulling and testing them as I was going, and they paper type capacitors were junk. They don't read anywhere close to what they're supposed to. They failed. I believe the green one reads off spec by a significant amount, and this blue one does as well. The bumblebees, believe it or not, removing them and testing them as I went, they weren't too bad, actually. They seemed to be... I probably could have left them in, to be honest with you. But since the kit came with some nice new yellow type paper, or not paper and foil, but foil type, I think they're a mica foil or something along those lines. They're a higher spec. When I tested each individual one, they were absolutely spot on to what they were supposed to be. So the tolerances on those are super, super tight. So got most of all those installed. I do have a small pile here of capacitors to take care of still. I got these guys here that still need to be installed. I've got some either they're ceramic or poly type that need to be installed as well. Those dip style ones need to be put in. And then I got a couple, 4 of these yellow dip style ones need to be installed as well. So I'll have to look at the schematic and see where that all goes. He did include a piece of paper that shows values and locations on where they're supposed to be. In this type of piece of equipment, it's a little hard because you do have to look at the schematic and follow things to really figure out where things go. The customer did supply a reproduction radiomanuals.com service manual / user manual that I'll refer to for some of the important stuff, like just in general, going through a bunch of things. It did include a full fold-out schematic, which is nice. That's a must. You have to have a fold-out schematic. If you buy another manual from another provider and it doesn't have a fold-out style one and you're stuck with the schematics between multiple pages, it's just an absolute nightmare trying to trace things around. And in this case, I'm actually going to kind of say that they shouldn't even have included these if they included the fold-out one. It's just the way they punch the binder on these, it kind of just ruins that part of the schematics. So anyway, that's there. They included the fold-out. It is a nicely printed unit, but it's very clear to read, so I will give some credit. It's definitely nice to see. I would have liked an original manual personally, but that's a good, decent quality. I had to order them if I needed a manual for something specific. So yeah, here it is. We'll take a little look and zoom around. Well, we have the camera going here, and I'll just give you a pan and show off a few of the things that I've done. It's obviously everything that's a yellow capacitor in here I have installed. I also installed these electrolytics here, the 470 at 160s. The can capacitor, which is right behind here, this little yellow guy behind there. The Hayseed Hamfest one has been installed. So there's a little bit of a view. I do need to do some tracing and tracking to find a few other components that came with the kit that need to be replaced. So it's looking pretty clean. That's the pile so far of old components that came out. I'm gonna go ahead and spin the Collins around. Temporarily move you out of the way, sorry. But I'll show you what what that Hayseed Hamfest capacitor looks like installed. In fact, this is the first time I've seen it installed in the radio, so it might even surprise me on how nice it looks. Who knows? I need I really need to get a Lazy Susan for this type of stuff. Alright, we'll just do this. Oh yeah, that does look nice. So here we go. Turn some light on so you can see better. But that's the capacitor, that's the replacement that went in. It's got my fingerprints on it and everything, and you can see the reflection of my hat bobbing around in the background. So definitely a good replacement. It looks nice. It has a good look for the aesthetic. And like I said, if I ever saw that in a particular piece of equipment, I would know that, okay, this person put a little bit of thought and they definitely cared about getting it done and making it a functional object for somebody in the future. I'm not saying that doing the capacitors on the underside is wrong and leaving the original capacitor installed but not electrically connected. That is by far, that's also acceptable. So I have gone through and let's see, we'll back up the camera again here because there's a lot to show. I've gone through and tested all of the vacuum tubes. I found 2 particular tubes that were reading just a little on the leaky side. They weren't reading bad, but they were exhibiting some some grid leakage. And I figure, you know what, if I'm in here and I'm doing it, I'm going to make sure that the tubes that are going back in here are just perfect. So, and every tube that I did test and verified, I just used a yellow paint marker and I marked the tips of all of the vacuum tubes so that I know that they've been worked on. It's looking good. It's a nice clean unit. Has all the band filters, so that's kind of nice. It has the has all that installed for CW sideband and AM width filters. So that's really cool to see. What else? Still has the original crystal oscillator down here. Seems to function just fine. I will be going through and doing a full alignment on it, as well as giving it a little bit more of a cleanup. I have some LEDs showing up as well. Can I zoom out some? Yeah. There we go. So I do have some LEDs coming to put in behind the paper roll for the band chart, as well as behind the dial scale and in the meter. The reason why I'm going with LED, and they're an actual, like, a bulb style replacement. The reason why I'm going with them is they don't generate heat like the filament bulbs do, and the plastics and the meter scales and the paper will tend to yellow out more with all that heat, and it's just a good idea. We'll throw LEDs in this. They're going to be a warm white, so they're going to have the appearance of a filament bulb. They're diffused, so they have a much better spread out light pattern, so it's not going to look like an LED spotlight pinpointing on certain areas. It should look really, really nice. So, but very, very pleased so far with how things are going. We'll zoom in a little bit more. Seems to be going quite well. If you are working on these, this kind of threw me for a loop for a minute. If you are working on a Collins piece of equipment and it uses the similar type of bulb, let's see if I can get a good view of that right there in the center of the screen. So these bulbs, if you don't know, they're actually a pressed-in clip. So you basically just have to wiggle them out carefully. There we go. And then you can take the bulb out. Now, on this particular socket, the outer body is ground, so you do have to make sure it's clipped in and secured for the bulb to work and light up. I did temporarily put in some filament bulbs for my testing, just so I can kind of work with it and see how it's going to look. So really, really happy with how this is taking off and coming together. Let's go ahead and zoom back out. So, a very cool piece of equipment. This is a piece of equipment that's on my bucket list as a receiver transmitter pair. Someday I will have one, but they are quite expensive. They're kind of a sought after, high-end, old school piece of equipment, so that tends to keep the prices quite high on them. But luckily there are a lot of cases where older amateur radio operators are getting to the point where the equipment is a lot to keep around, and it shows up sometimes for a really a fair price to somebody who actually does want to have and use and maintain and just keep the keep the history of this type of equipment out there in the world. So anyway, I think that's going to do it for this video. Just wanted to give the recap on what I'm doing on the cap job. And we'll get this thing all squared away so that the customer can have many, many years of trouble-free operation. And get this this beautiful receiver in probably like new or better than new operational status. So it did work before. It just I noticed that it didn't quite work very, very well. It had some issues on receive on certain bands. There was a hum, which definitely was coming from some of those capacitors that I did test that were testing not so well. So, cool. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll catch you in another nerdy moment. 7-3 for now.